His wife was murdered. He used her smart home data to catch the killer. When David Miller came home, he found his wife Sarah lifeless on the living room floor. The police called it a random break-in, a tragic accident. But David knew better. Sarah was meticulous, paranoid about security. As the investigation stalled, David did the one thing the police wouldn't. He hacked into her smart home system. The data he found there didn't just reveal a killer. It revealed a friend she was meeting in secret. And the moment he confronted him, the man pulled out a gun. Before we start, like this video and comment "Justice for Sarah" if you stand with David. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories. Now, let's begin. There is a particular silence that follows absolute devastation. It is not an empty silence, but a heavy, suffocating one, filled with the deafening echo of a life that is no longer there. For David Miller, that silence was in the home he had built with his wife, Sarah. It was in the hallway where her raincoat still hung, in the kitchen where her favorite mug sat drying by the sink, in the living room where the police had drawn a chalk outline around the space where her body had been found. The official report called it a tragic burglary, a random act of violence. But the silence told David a different story. It whispered of a specific malicious intent. And in that silence, he made a promise. He would listen to the only witness that never lied, the one that never forgot, the digital heartbeat of the smart home Sarah had so lovingly curated. He would listen, even if what it told him shattered the world all over again. David's world had been one of gentle order and deep, abiding partnership, an electrical engineer by trade. He was a man who found comfort in the logical flow of circuits and the elegant simplicity of solved problems. Sarah was his opposite and his complement, a vibrant, meticulous graphic designer whose creativity was matched only by her pragmatic need for security. Their home was a testament to their union, a beautiful, early 20th century craftsman house retrofitted with a nervous system of their own design. Smart locks on the doors, moisture sensors on the pipes, motion-activated lighting in the hallways, a doorbell camera that captured every approach. Sarah had overseen it all, not out of paranoia, but out of desire to build a perfect, seamless, safe nest. For David, it had been a charming quirk. Now it was a crime scene, and it was the only witness. The injustice was a slow, cold drip of bureaucratic helplessness. It began with the lead detective, a man named Campos whose face was a roadmap of long nights and dead ends. He'd been kind, in a distant, professional way. "Mr. Miller," he'd said, his voice a low rumble in the too-quiet house. "There's no sign of forced entry. The forensics team found nothing. No foreign fingerprints, no DNA under her nails, no murder weapon. The back door was unlocked. It looks like she might have interrupted someone." These things, they're often crimes of opportunity. Tragic, random. The word random landed like a physical blow. Sarah was not random. Her life was not random. Her death could not be random. David tried to protest, to point to the sophisticated security system. Detective Campos had nodded patiently. "We pulled the cloud logs. The doorbell camera was offline for maintenance. Probably a glitch. The motion sensors didn't trigger. There's nothing there." The case was being filed away, another unsolved statistic. The system's failure wasn't malicious. It was a weary surrender to a lack of easy evidence. David's grief was being processed, packaged, and shelved. The spark was a blinking light. 3 days after the funeral, David was sitting in the dark at their kitchen table, a glass of water untouched in front of him. His eyes, raw and dry from crying, wandered over the control panel for the smart home system mounted on the wall. A small amber light was blinking next to the label "Local Log Storage." Sarah, of course. She was always paranoid about cloud security. "What if the internet goes out?" she'd said. "What if the company gets hacked? I want a local backup." She had insisted on a secondary, physical drive that stored all the raw data from every sensor, every lock, every camera, on a 72-hour loop before overwriting itself. The police had only checked the cloud. They hadn't known about the local server hidden in the basement crawl space. David's breath hitched. He hadn't just lost a wife. He'd lost a partner in a project he'd only half paid attention to. Now, he was its sole operator, The digital investigation was a descent into a ghostly world of ones and zeros that held the last moments of the woman he loved. He moved his laptop to the basement, into the cold, dusty space beside the server. Accessing the raw data was like reading a novel in a foreign language he only vaguely understood. Timestamps, device IDs, command codes. But slowly, his engineering mind began to parse the story. He started with the backdoor lock. The cloud log showed only unlocked. The local log showed more. CMD, unlock via app, user, Sarah_phone, 22:03:14. She had unlocked it with her phone. Willingly, for someone. His heart began to hammer, a sick feeling rising in his throat. He checked the doorbell camera. The cloud log showed offline for scheduled maintenance. 21時55分2秒、22時40分、18アクサングラブ. The local log told a true story. CMD, manual power cycle via app. User, Sarah_phone, 21:55:02. She had turned it off. Someone had asked her to, or she had known to expect someone she didn't want recorded. He then pulled the motion sensor data from the hallway leading to the living room. The cloud feed was blank. The local log showed a cascade of triggers. Motion, hallway, 22:04:30. A pause. Motion, hallway, 22:05:12. Then a flurry. Motion, living room, 22 hours 5 minutes and 48 seconds. Motion, living room, 22 hours 5 minutes and 51 seconds. Motion, living room, 22:05:55. A struggle, then nothing. For 37 minutes, nothing. Then motion, living room, 22 hours 42 minutes and 1 second. Motion, hallway, 22 hours 42 minutes and 15 seconds. Motion, back door, 22 hours 42 minutes and 30 seconds. Door lock, manual lock. The killer had waited. He had sat in the silence with her body. Then he had left, locking the door behind him from the inside, pulling it shut. It was cold, calculated, and personal. David wept, not just from grief, but from the horrific intimacy of it. Someone she knew, someone she had let in. He cross-referenced the timestamps with her phone's location history, which he could access through their shared family plan. Every Tuesday afternoon for the past 4 months, her phone had placed her at the Rose Cafe, a quiet spot across town. He drove there, posing as an insurance investigator checking footage for a client's whereabouts. The manager, sympathetic, let him see the tapes. There she was, alive, smiling, animated. And across from her, leaning in, was Mark. Mark, his business partner. Mark, his best friend for 15 years. Mark, who had held him up at the funeral. The world tilted on its axis. The revelation was a symphony of betrayal, each note more devastating than the last. He couldn't confront Mark yet. He needed irrefutable proof. He remembered Mark was fanatical about his fitness, never taking off his expensive smartwatch. As business partners, they had access to each other's professional calendars and health data for a company wellness program they joked about. David's fingers flew across the keyboard, his grief now a cold, focused fury. He accessed the aggregated health data on the company server. He filtered for the night of the murder. There it was, a perfect, horrifying digital alibi. Mark's watch showed him at a business dinner until 9:45 p.m., his heart rate a steady 65 BPM. Then, location data showed him driving across town. At 10:04 p.m., his heart rate spiked to 172 BPM. The timestamp was exact. The location data was vague, but David didn't need it. He knew the spike happened exactly when the motion sensors in his living room went wild. Mark's body had confessed. David didn't call Detective Campos. He went to Mark's office himself. The confrontation wasn't loud or violent. It was quiet, a terrible, intimate stillness between two men who had shared a lifetime. David didn't mention the murder. He simply said, "I know about the Rose Cafe, Mark. I know about Tuesdays." He watched the blood drain from his best friend's face, watched the carefully constructed mask of grief and support crumble into sheer, panic guilt. Mark confessed the affair. his words tumbling out in a desperate river. He loved her. He never meant for any of it to happen. They had argued that night. She wanted to tell David everything. He'd grab her arm. She'd pulled away. She'd fallen, hitting her head on the sharp corner of the marble coffee table, the same table David had built for them as an anniversary gift. He'd panicked. He'd staged the scene, using his knowledge of their system, knowledge David himself had given him, to make it look like a break-in. As he spoke, he reached into his desk drawer, not for a weapon, but for a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses, a pathetic attempt at a final moment of camaraderie. The gesture was more devastating than any attack. The police, whom David had emailed the data moments before walking in, arrived then, their footsteps echoing in the hallway. The betrayal was complete. The resolution was not peace, but a different kind of silence. The legal proceedings were swift. Mark pleaded guilty, his digital footprint providing a confession more detailed than any he could ever give. The victory was hollow. David had solved the puzzle. He had found justice, but he had lost his wife and his best friend in the process. He sold the house. He couldn't bear the silence. Months later, a letter arrived from a national victims advocacy group. They had heard about his story. They offered him a role not as a client, but as a consultant. They were creating a new division focused on using digital forensics to help families of cold case victims navigate the same data trails he had. He accepted. Now, David Miller sits in a small, bright office, helping others listen to the digital echoes of their loved ones. He teaches them how to read the stories hidden in server logs and timestamps. He knows now that truth is not a comfort. It is a sharp, double-edged sword that cuts on the way in and on the way out. But it is all there is. Love leaves a footprint, but so does betrayal. And in the silent, perfect memory of data, nothing is ever truly forgotten. If you believe that justice can be found in the truth, like this video, subscribe to Digital Detective and share this story. Comment below, how far would you go to find the truth for someone you love?